Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Quake Pro League as we have our second match coming up. It will be between GNiK and psygib. A matchup which will be quite interesting to say the least and see what GNiK can do here.
Yeah, GNiK is a player who absolutely stormed his way through to the NA Challengers League back when he first made his way into the Pro League, and ever since, so far, his performance has been a bit middling. I think he was definitely expecting to be able to do more, but he's clearly making some improvements. So far in Stage 4, yes, he hasn't managed to secure himself a win yet, but I think there's a lot of people eagerly awaiting and counting down to see it happen in Stage 4.
It's all a question of time, really, Flea, isn't it? You know, we've been waiting for these moments for him to try and get on a pedestal and try and come back in any way he can. But you are right, though. He has made some, I would say, a lot of improvements compared to what he was like a couple of stages ago. Like in terms of like not just his aggression, but his aim's a lot better. The paths and routes he actually takes, depending on what matchup he wants to actually take in terms of the engagement. So it's been a little bit weird, but compared to what we saw at the Stage 3 finals, we haven't seen him take a full-on win yet.
No, he did manage to defend his position in the Pro League against Sid, winning his relegation match, if I'm not mistaken, but that was about it. Although one notable highlight of the Stage 3 finals for GNiK at least is that he managed to beat Nosva, who is definitely a very strong competitor in the NA side of things. A man who started off swinging at the beginning of the Quake Pro League, hasn't quite been able to live up on that. Going to dive into that a bit more later when his match comes up. But clearly, GNiK, he's got some moments of brilliance, and he absolutely has what it takes. And I'm curious to see where this can go if he keeps improving and working on the fundamentals of his play.
Yeah, not only did he actually win that series as well against Nosva, he also took the hang to, map number 3 in the best of 3 series. And it's just weird that ever since then, like things have changed so much. Of course, I think it meant a lot to him at the time because you've got all the adrenaline and obviously the motivation to try and get into the Pro League. And he just wanted to make a statement to say, before Stage 4 starts, I want to show you guys that I've improved a lot more compared to what you see me, back in Stage 2. And there's a lot of things I can do to improve on even now. I think the only thing I would say about GNiK is he can be a little bit predictable at times. And I think a lot of players have actually noticed that. So they kind of wait for him to force out the first engagement, depending on what kind of fight he wants to execute. But apart from that, though, he has improved a lot more, but we need to see something more of him during this second half of the stage.
Absolutely, and something more he definitely has to bring if we take a look at the opponent that he's up against today, because it's none other than psygib himself, a man who is known for having raw, brute combat strength like none other, an absolute brawler who can bring the pain. He loves those close quarters weapons. He's an extremely adept fighter in just about any situation, and so far the man has been doing pretty well in Stage 4 as well. If I'm not mistaken, he's won 2 of his matches, lost 2 others against really good players in his defense, so psygib is a force to be reckoned with. If I'm not mistaken, he almost made it into the finals day of the Stage 3 finals. I think he just lost to Chain. That was the last match that he needed to win. Couldn't quite make it happen, but he was almost among the 6 best players worldwide in that tournament. So clearly psygib, not someone that is easily dealt with either. A lot of skills on that end, and GNiK is really going to have to perform today if he wants to put a dent in that wall.
Yeah, it's going to be extremely difficult task. Remember, psygib, he is the kind of player, he's very methodical in his approach to a lot of his fights he takes. I would say he's actually more on form, he even took a map off Rafa the other week, so he's had a lot of series where he manages to take him down and win. But even then, we need to see a lot more. We know psygib had a little bit of a blip during Stage 3, just a little bit, because we know he's getting better and better, improving his placements at every finals at Stage 1 and 2. 3, I think he's just seen it as a blip. He's just thinking to himself, okay, that never happened. We don't have to worry about it. But now we've seen him more on form as Stage 4 has progressed, as we have the picks and bans. Now you can see Molten Falls and Awoken have been banned straight off the list straight away. And we're going to see Blood Run first on psygib's pick, and then Corrupted Kip next. And then we'll see Blood Covenant as the last map. Any thoughts on this, Flea?
I mean, I'm curious and very excited to see the Scale Bearer come out on Bloodrun. We have seen some great things being done with that champion, but he's very difficult to play, because if you can't get the rhythm and the groove just right, he is a pretty big and overall very predictable target in the way that he moves around the map. So he can absorb a lot of damage, but he's also a pretty big magnet for that LG and Railgun as well. So GNiK will have to play him well. Second map, Corrupted Keep, we're gonna see BJ go up against the Ranger. Pretty standard picks right there. BJ is a good pick. on this map. The dual wield can do so much damage, and we know that is something that psygib is all about. And then the final map, once again an interesting pick, Blood Covenant, and we're seeing Athena. Now Athena and Blood Covenant name a more iconic pair. We see her played on that map more and more, but of course GNiK will have to those totems sooner rather than later, or else his opponent will have so much stack to work with.
Yeah, you saw there, Blood Run as the first map. It will be Scaled Bear versus the Doom. And even then, we know Scaled Bear can be a bit of a nuisance depending on how close you are in terms of the engagement on what part of the map on Blood Run, but it'll be an interesting way to start because we need to see GNiK with the speed and the confidence which he had before, quite a few weeks ago. We need to see that again, but with psygib, he's going to be making sure that he keeps him at bay, as we'll be starting off with psygib, to say the least, and then we'll have to see what he can do from here, as already psygib is just waiting for GNiK to rotate rounds, baiting out those rockets, but it looks like both these players know where each other are, but just want to see who's going to make that first mistake or the first action happen.
Pretty unusual start for Blood Run. It's very often that at least some damage is exchanged in those opening engagements because you spawn pretty close to each other. And here we go, the sudden burst of aggression. GNiK, the bull rush into the close combat rockets will seal the deal, and the rocket jump right back up, secures him the heavy as well. psygib though, he's coming for him. He smelled blood, but he's gotta be careful, not much stack to work with. And GNiK, of course, a monster with both mega and heavy to his name, will prove to be too much. 2-0 lead for the Canadian already.
All I'm going to say is good recovery there from GNiK. It was a little bit shaky at that one moment in time, but he recovered quite well. As for the time being, the Mega is up, managed to take that. Heavy will be coming up very shortly. GNiK has decided not to contest it for now and is going to try and go for that height advantage, but the bull rush comes in. The rockets come through as well, but psygib is the one who takes that fight.
I'm not sure if you noticed, but he double jumped over the bull rush.
Yep.
It just went straight underneath him into the wall. I don't think that did any damage whatsoever. And that was a key play for psygib to secure himself that win. Now he's in a bad position. The rockets need to be good if he wants a shot at Mega. Won't be able to. GNiK surprisingly decides not to push this one. There we go, though. Lands the rocket on the back. I was really expecting GNiK to push in for that one, but perhaps he assumed that his opponent on the Doomslayer was a bit too slippery, would have gotten away and secured heavy instead. So a safe play from GNiK to just go for the item, knowing that he has the lead. He doesn't need to chase for frags that much. And a really good outcome for him as well. GNiK still 2 frags in the lead.
I think GNiK heard you telepathically when you said that, and that's the first rail. The bull rush comes in. When you get the second, it's barely missed. The second rail, but it's going to push in anyway and clean him up with the LG. But yeah, speaking about earlier, I'm almost certain that bull rush didn't do anything. He took literally no damage. That was a great double jump earlier. But GNiK is continuing to rain havoc on psygib here. He's going to push in a little bit more. 30 damage on the LG, just keeping him at bay, but the Mega comes up and he's going to try and do his best to contest that heavy, but the rockets come in for psygib. GNiK now just sitting in top shotgun, just seeing if he will make a play for the heavy, but it's too late. He's already got it. Nice tri-bolt shots there again. But psygib needs to be careful. He needs to possibly get away, but will he be able to pull off his rail? Decides to pull back for now. And yeah, interesting one.
Finally, psygib actually using the LG. That was the first bit of damage he had done with the lightning gun this entire map. And that's what we saw when we watched Blood Run earlier, right? In our matchup between Sparty and Razy, Sparty just didn't use LG or didn't get to use it for several minutes, and it allowed his opponent to just completely steamroll him. GNiK not quite to the same effect, but still making use of that better weapon assortment that he has up his pockets. On the other hand, psygib also really not doing too well with the railgun, only around 22% accuracy with that particular weapon against a target as big as Scale. Definitely something that needs improving. But right now though, GNiK in a really bad spot. Just 50 points of health to work with. psygib will be able to take him down before the bull rush even connects.
Rightfully, 4-2 now in favour of GNiK. psygib, we'll have to see what he can do. We know he's not the most aggressive player in the Americas, but he is one of the most methodical, which is what he's doing right now. He's just trying to force him into a different position. The first rail comes through, and so does the rocket jump. I think psygib was hoping to get a second veil off. But as you can see, GNiK was like, nope, I'm not having any of that. I'm not going to be as predictable as you might think. And GNiK is just dancing around top mid just to see if he can make psygib change positions. But even then, though, he's backed off and GNiK is still trying to push away, which he manages to and gets a little bit of damage off here.
GNiK is really struggling to get his hands on some solid weaponry. It's quite difficult to get a hold of some of the weapons on this map if your opponent holds the angles that psygib has been holding. And if you look at the weapons that GNiK has right now, he doesn't have any of the unholy trinity. No rocket, no rail, no LG. Almost had the opportunity to pick up rocket right there, decides not to go for it, perhaps considering it a bit too risky. But all he's got to work with is the shotgun and the heavy nail gun. He's putting in some work with it though, but he clearly needs some better weaponry than these ones. psygib in a bad spot though. And that is one of the strengths of playing on Blood Run. It is such a map with so many of these tight little corners and choke points that GNiK, even without any of the major weapons, can still hold his own and secure a lot of these good positions, doing a lot of damage against psygib when he makes a move.
psygib earlier, his track and aim wasn't the best on the LG, but has decided to at least do his best to take GNiK off guard, but he has some great tri-bolt shots there. psygib, though, is also quite weak. He decides not to take a huge risk as of yet. But when I say that, GNiK just comes straight in, no holds barred with the shotgun, and increases his lead further.
Yeah, the choo-choo train around the corner, no holds barred. And I love how he waited with it too, Harry. He just waited until he was basically touching psygib to fire the first shot with the shoddy to great success as well. And now GNiK doing an excellent job extending his lead. He just has to be careful not to be too aggressive, because that is what cost him earlier. GNiK, you've got a good lead. 3.5 minutes left. This is Blood Run. Do not put yourself too far out there. Don't chase too dangerous of a frag. That is perfect. Beautiful positioning. psygib pushing straight at him. And of course, we know that LG can kill a person's momentum when you jump right into the beam. That's exactly what happened right there. psygib frozen in midair. And that allows GNiK to stack on so much damage so quickly.
You're absolutely right, though. What psygib is doing, like, you know, I can understand he's taking a few risks here and there, but GNiK is just literally just playing with food at this point. He might get the ball rush, he might get the first rocket, but will he be able to get the second in as the jumps come in and psygib takes that engagement? He's very, very weak, but I think GNiK could be able to finish him off, and he does. All that effort for that frag, and GNiK spawns in the nail room and drops down to the LG to clean him up, but GNiK could get another one here as he's flying away from that LG. psygib manages to stay alive, and of course, GNiK is on the hunt for him. Zemo comes in, but surely he's going to try and get taken down. The LG comes back through once more. He's left on 51 HP. The rail combo does not come out in the end. But GNiK playing very aggressive. He switched his style so much. He's gone from very aggressive to suddenly playing methodical and passive, and then back and forth, no matter what his stack's been. It's definitely playing with psygib's mind here.
GNiK's weapon choices have been subpar. They have been hurting him a lot. psygib with the double jump can evade rockets so easily, but that is still the weapon that GNiK consistently favors in pretty much any of these situations. It led to him dying that first time around and almost gave away another frag shortly afterwards, just because he's unable to do damage to psygib, who's just double jumping around above him and avoiding so much rocket damage. So GNiK also didn't pick up LG just now, and he's got almost no ammo for that weapon. He has to be so careful, because he's being outgunned massively in these matchups.
Oh, just barely missed out on the ball rush, but I don't think it would have made too much difference. Anyway, as GNiK is just getting the trade frags every single time, like you saw earlier. He spawned above the LG, drops down, finishes him off. This time round, spawns near the rail, picks him off, done. And he's trading so well, and it's so important to trade out here on Blood Run. It's very easy just to run away and try and get away and just survive with the frag lead you have, but GNiK knows there's always a very small window or small possibility here. But it looks like psygib, don't get me wrong, he made the attempt to try and come in with that berserk mode, but decides not to for the time being. GNiK is still just keeping him at bay. Should be able to finish the job here, but decides to go for the heavy and prioritize the items more. A minute left, 5 frag difference here, Flea, and I think it's all said and done.
I'm inclined to agree with that. So
And that's right in time. So GNiK, at the moment, you can see here, still got a decent lead. But with 35 seconds left, it's going to be very difficult for psygib to try and get anything going here. But he's taken a big risk, but a little bit too late. But the shotgun comes in, and surely there's going to be another frag for GNiK as the bull rush comes in. Increases the lead once more.
That's going to do it. psygib is just chasing his opponent with those punches. Look at that, even throwing out a bit of a teabag right there, just to get back at his opponent. But that is definitely going to be a victory for GNiK on map 1. This is looking good for the Canadian player. This could very well be his first win if he can keep up the momentum.
I just hope it's not the same as what happened to Sparty, because, you know, GNiK, how he played then was remarkable. He consistently played different, consistently changed his styles. It wasn't always the same paths and routes or the setups he'd always make. He would change it all the time consistently. And psygib was never sure either to push in hard and fast or just wait and just see if he decides to push into him by accident in terms of like walk into a certain area. But it seemed to be perfectly fine. I was quite surprised. I'm just hoping the second and third map, it doesn't all go downhill, because the last thing I want for GNiK, I know he's been riding the struggle bus throughout stage 4, but I don't want it to be a one-way ticket.
Absolutely not, though. But this is a promising start from GNiK, and I hope that we are going to see psygib just maintain his composure, right? Because they have best of us, and it is always there looming on the horizon when you feel that you deserve the frag over and over, but it's just not working out.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm sure if GNiK plays the same style he did in that first map, but then again, it is Blood Run, you do have to switch your styles up quite a lot. It depends on the circumstances of the next map. But psygib, I don't think he was really bothered. I think he was just taking it on the chin a little bit. You saw, you know, what he was doing at the end. It's just all banter. You don't have to worry about it. I think it's going to throw him off just a little bit. That's the psygib's way of saying, look, okay, you've had the first map. That's fine. You can have the first map. The second... well, the next two, shall we say, should hopefully be his. But, you know, psygib, he also just got fundamentally outplayed in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. GNiK just had a commanding control on much of the map, used the abilities that he had with the scale bearer quite nicely. The bull rush came out in clutch rescue time and time again. We saw a few nice dodges from psygib, right? The double jump over the charging opponent, but overall, just the positional play from GNiK did a lot of damage, and he just played a very controlled and disciplined game, I feel like, especially when I pointed it out that he didn't have any of the main weapons, no railgun, no lightning gun, no rockets. All he had was shotgun and nail gun, and he still just held on to that and managed to push psygib back time and time again, actually getting a stack advantage at a point. So GNiK played this very nicely, and let us see if he can continue that momentum in map 2, which will be Corrupted Keep.
It's funny you said that. You said the unholy trinity, you know, didn't have the 3 weapons in his arsenal, which he so desperately desired. But even then, you know, you mentioned it before, he didn't really need to. He had the shotgun for the close range battles and had the nail gun to kind of keep him at bay to a certain degree. And it can be quite difficult in that retrospect. But yeah, the second map, like you said, it will be Corrupted Keep. But then again, you know, it's going to be very difficult. I can say this for now, but whoever gets the lead, don't expect to be able to run away like you can do on Blood Run. But it could be a completely different story. But as long as GNiK continues to play confidently and is quick-witted with his aim and what he wants to do and what paths he takes, he should be okay here. We'll have to see what happens as we are going to start off with GNiK. Already gets the heavy machine gun and the LG. As you see, the psygib was just bolting straight in, but it doesn't matter now as GNiK, lovely all there as well as getting the light at the same time. Surely this is going to be the first frag on board. It is, with only 13 HP. That was
such a close frag still. GNiK played that nicely though. The orb indeed was a very clever play. Quick thinking right there allowed him to secure not 1 but 2 of the small armors right there that allowed him to ultimately get to win. But now his opponent has got a superior stack. He does manage to secure himself the heavy, but still he's only at around a base 100 armor right now. Whereas psygib is going to be picking up another small one on the other side of the map. So GNiK has to remain careful, at least for a bit longer, before he can really take it to his opponents.
psygib now. Tie things up. Isn't on the best of stacks here, but the Mega comes through, and I feel like GNiK knows exactly. It's not in the best of positions, but he's chasing him down. psygib's only on 10 HP, finally gets cleaned up, and GNiK manages to close that bout out, and be up to 2-1. He's going to hopefully, if he can, try and increase that lead further to the third frag.
GNiK, yeah, once again putting himself in the lead. It's a tight lead, but it's a start of something potentially much greater. He has to make a run for it now, though, as psygib will mercilessly take him down from the back. This is the kind of brawl that you usually expect more from psygib. He's just such an up-close and personal player, can do so much damage, and he doesn't want to give his opponent an inch.
He definitely is in the psygib. Beautiful rockets there, keeping him at bay and just standing his grounds. Surely this is not a fight GNiK can take, but look at these ballsy plays. Finally, psygib manages to clean things up. And GNiK was just dodging left, right, and centre, just being an absolute nuisance. But the Mega is coming up. You can see GNiK tried to contest that, not going to happen. But then again, the stacks were a little bit similar, as GNiK now has to back away. He's quite weak, does get the heavy for his troubles, but how long for?
GNiK has to be careful not to be overwhelmed now. Yes, he can secure some of the major items, but he is just taking so much damage consistently that he needs to not overextend. This is a good catch from him. Was expecting him to use the orb, that would have probably gotten him the frag a little sooner and safer, but still, it will be a trade and the Mega will be his to take. This is definitely the better spawn for the Canadian player. Can he make a move on heavy? Looks like he's just going to wait and give it freely to his opponent psygib and instead get himself a weaponry instead.
GNiK now. Waiting for psygib's first move, his first rotation. It comes in and misses a couple of rockets there, but it is at quite an awkward angle on that ramp. But GNiK does have the LG anyway to follow suit. So he gets a beautiful rocket, as I talked about the first two, but it doesn't matter as GNiK decides to prioritize the Mega, just trying to push straight in. psygib does have the heavy, so GNiK needs to be a little bit careful on exactly how he's going to push for the engagement. But as I was saying, he dives straight in with the rockets. Surely he's going to try and at least close this out as much as he can, but decides to go for the light. psygib's going to get a little bit of health of his own, and we'll see how this next engagement is going to work out as GNiK just firing rockets just to get a feel for psygib. But surely this could be a frag for him. No, it's not, as psygib goes up in the air. But it doesn't matter as he comes down and reigns supreme.
psygib is in a really good position to finally set up rotation, but those rockets think otherwise. GNiK now in a bad spot. Highly aggressive play, not sure at all why he decided to go for that, since psygib could absolutely still take and survive a full orb to the face right there. This is not looking good for GNiK right now. He has to stabilize, and quickly too, because otherwise I feel like we might get one of those snowball effects that this map is just infamous for. Defensive rockets are solid though. Those are definitely still helping him out a bit, keeping him somewhat in the game still. But psygib right now, doing considerably more damage than his opponent, also has the much better item pickups, but just 12 points of health. GNiK will finally clean this one up. Definitely not out for the count just yet. But Harry, this is an incredibly messy game compared to the other ones that we've seen so far. No one really able to establish consistent, lengthy control. It just keeps flipping. Players constantly dying, getting refrags, switching items. There's no consistency whatsoever. This is a brawl.
I'm not going to lie, Flea. I love a bit of chaos now and then. If it's a bit of a mess, then it's all good. We know that both players are going to be trading frags back and forth. But you're right, though. With Corrupt to keep normally around the third to halfway mark, one of the players normally stabilise. But GNiK isn't giving psygib that opportunity. He's doing all the right things, just making sure he backs away at the right times, tries to contest some of the items, but not to a degree where, he gets himself killed for it. So GNiK, needs to play his game. He knows psygib is massively stacked. But what can GNiK hit to come back? It's very hard to get some kind of chip damage, but hopefully his defensive and predictive rockets are on point. But we'll have to see as GNiK now just trying to see if he can get the flank on him. But psygib had no idea he was there. But it doesn't matter. A nice little rocket there. He's going to try and get the Mega, and this could be the engagement which matters most. And psygib is the one who takes that and increases his lead once more.
GNiK, you should not be here. You shouldn't have been at Mega either. psygib, he's got the weaponry once again, getting the perfect read on his opponent, but this time around, though, he has to be a bit careful. That heavy machine gun is a murderous weapon, especially on a map like this that lags the railgun. Shaky aim right there from psygib. Definitely could have been a lot more on point than GNiK managing to retaliate in style. Still has quite a bit of work cut out for him though. I'm liking the orbs from GNiK, but psygib seems to have a really good read on them, catching his opponent out of the teleport pretty much every single time.
psygib hasn't got one of the best tracking aims, but that's not what he is known for. He is known for his predictability in terms of his rockets and how he methodically approaches each and every matchup. But GNiK is just playing defensive for now. He knows psygib has the bigger stack. He's just going to get as much chip damage as he can with the rockets and the heavy machine gun. But this is not a fight GNiK wants to take here, as he's trying to be extremely careful of how he can get out of such a hairy situation here. As the orb comes through, a nice fake out. psygib did actually expect him to maybe potentially go through that portal after the orb teleportation and then maybe contest for the mega, but decides not to for now, as GNiK just trying to get his armor up for the time, just try and get his default stack back and going. But GNiK is still playing it very, very slow here. He's expecting psygib to contest the heavy, maybe go for the telly, but it's become a lot more cautious than we once expected compared to the first half of the game here, Flea.
Absolutely, and we can really see that psygib has just been doing most of the damage overall, and it allowed him to set up finally at long last a solid rotation of the major items. So you can see the difference in stack is just tremendous, and if you look at the item pickups, psygib has twice as many as his opponent GNiK, but he does slip up slightly right there, a bit too aggressive on the chase, and gives GNiK the opportunity to steal away the mega. Good thing that his opponent still hit the rocket, and once again GNiK with a brilliant rocket straight down is going to shut psygib up, at least momentarily. 2 minutes, 2 frags, lethal, this is possible.
It definitely is 100%. Sadly, GNiK was just outside of the LG range. Doesn't matter, though, gets the mega, took a little bit of damage for his troubles, but at least he's taken it, that's all that matters. As he picks up the light. Heavy's come up in the next 5 seconds, but GNiK is probably prepping to see if he actually goes for it or not. I don't know if he actually knows if the heavy's going to be up soon. Maybe he's expecting him, or maybe he's already expected, but he's already picked it up and he's going to make his first rotation round. As GNiK has found him, the rockets do not connect, but it's still faking out the fact that he ran away and trying to see if he can get any more damage with those rockets. But he knows the mega's there, manages to pick it up, and just manages to get away from the skin of his teeth. And even then, though, the dual wield has come into play, but GNiK knows not to take that bout there. But psygib is still looking to take the engagement, but GNiK's like, not yet, my friend, not yet. Let's wait for a little bit more time, but he's only got 45 seconds left here, Flea.
Good decision from psygib right there. Instead of going around and contesting for heavy, he just goes all the way to the other side of the map, sits at rockets, got the small armor, knows that all he has to do is burn time, and then the rockets, that midi was absolutely phenomenal. And now GNiK, he has to chase and actually will get a really nice burst of LG damage out right there. We've still got a fight on our hands, Harry. This isn't over just yet. 20 seconds. GNiK trailing by 1 frag, does manage to secure himself the heavy. He's got the better stack. Now all he has to do is find psygib. He is going to hide one of the most defendable parts of the map. GNiK, can he even catch a glimpse of his opponent?
It's only 3 seconds left, and it looks like, sadly for GNiK, psygib manages to get away from that. And it was quite risky as well. I think GNiK did have a feeling that psygib was still there, but when he heard the dual wield come out, that was the sound cue for GNiK to say, right, well, do you know what? I have no choice. I've only got 10 seconds left to try and force something to happen, but it just wasn't to be. But it was a great, great way for that map to finish, and it's just things, it means it's all tied up again.
Yeah, and I mean, this definitely comes to show how skilled GNiK is and the kind of potential that he has. He beat psygib map 1. This could have been a 2-0 already for GNiK. He just kind of dropped the ball a bit too often towards the end. And I feel like that is something that we still see too often in his game. Yes, he has improved a lot. He's worked on just about everything in his arsenal. But when it comes down to it, I feel like that longer term strategy in the final few minutes is sometimes where you can see the cracks appear. And that was no different this time around. There were a few really messy situations towards the end of the map where you can kind of tell that GNiK doesn't really have an idea or a plan on how to approach a certain situation. And so you just seem like, oh, now I have to try and rocket jump as fast as I can across the map, and it's messy, and he bounces up against the roof, and psygib lands a good rocket to punish him instantly. And it's just these kind of messy engagements really just show that he didn't really have a clear battle plan, and he just was put on the spot, had to make a short decision, kind of worked out, kind of not. And I think these are like the cracks, the final cracks in GNiK plays that he needs to address to be able to consistently duke it out with the top players. But that said, still, Corrupted Keep, we often say it's a map on its own because of how much of a snowball effect you can have. Didn't really see that this time around, but it is still only 1-1. So GNiK can still take this one.
He sure can indeed. And you saw there, psygib had some great defensive rockets keeping GNiK at bay when he had a huge stack at one point. But I think, fair play to GNiK. It's very easy on a map like Corrupted Keep to let your opponent not only stabilize, but just get carried away with things. We've seen it on so many times on Corrupted Keep. It doesn't matter how high tier you are as a player. There's a few moments where when you've got a 2-3 frag lead, it's then very difficult to say, well, at least try and catch up and make something happen. Because, you saw there, I think the biggest gap we saw was about 3 frags between them both. And even then, GNiK, that was the point where GNiK could have easily let psygib get too carried away with the scoreline, and he didn't, to be fair. He made sure to at least keep him at bay and trade the frags on spawn whenever he could. But this is the final map in the series between both of these players, and we'll have to see if GNiK does get the first series win on the board, or if psygib can continue playing on form.
And this is the first time we're seeing Athena make an appearance today, and she's a bit of a unique champion. She's got mobility that essentially puts anyone else in the roster to shame. Yes, she might not have that basic movement speed, the likes that Anarchy or Slash might have, but that vertical range that you can have when you use the grapple hooks, and also just those short boosts of speed horizontally can help you out so much. And also, a hidden effect of that ability is that you can use it so often that you deny pretty much every single hourglass on the map. Out comes the horizontal speed boost, takes a bad rail in return, and psygib stands his grounds, wisely switches to the shotgun to net himself a nice frag. I can clearly see what GNiK was going for right there, but that one rail that still struck him when he wasn't expecting it, that ruined his chance right there.
That was a naughty vertical rail there from psygib. Little chip damage just to put GNiK off for the time being. And you're right, though. Athena, 9 times out of 10, you'll see her played on the Pro League, especially on Blood Covenant. She's very, very good, very versatile, like you mentioned. As long as you don't play like a champion like Nyx, for example, against Athena, then you should be okay. But you've always got to take into account that the speed and the agility she has can take you down quite quickly as psygib now. Just holding top mid and top rockets for the time being, just making sure that he keeps him away from both the rail and the rockets, because with GNiK, he's only got the MG and the LG in his arsenal, and right now psygib is just making sure that he holds the top of the bridge, making sure that he puts the pressure on, and if he does try and get the rail or the rockets. But the thing though, GNiK isn't stupid. He knows that. He realises that he's got to try and somehow, some way put him off guard, but the first rail comes in and he's going to push in straight away. See if he can finish off GNiK if he can. 2 beautiful rockets. He's trying to go for a third. And that combo rail to boots. Very nicely done there by psygib.
Also, psygib has got a huge advantage with the 3 totems up right now. He's essentially got a Mega in his pocket, ready to be used whenever GNiK will be able to take down one of those totems. But still, a next one is already right back up if he needs it. This is so oppressive from psygib right now. GNiK still just looking not to stack, not to stabilize, but he's looking to survive. That is what his focus is on right now. More he cannot yet do. He needs a bit of resources, something more to work with, and psygib is denying everything. Really strong clutch that he has on the map right now. GNiK, though, good pushback from the LG, will save his skin, at least for the moment. But psygib, look at that. Basically a Mega for free, heavy to boot. This is difficult for the Canadian.
Right now, Flea, he is literally swimming in HP. He can't complain. He's in a very... I feel like the way he's playing, he's in a very comfortable situation. Of course, he doesn't need to go for the Mega with all the totems. He's just lost a couple now. But it's good pressure just to put him on anyway. The rocket came through, taking GNiK down. A little bit of disrespect there with the LG. And psygib, yeah, I think he's more than comfortable. He's in full control, lovely comfort zone. But the tri-bowl there was beautiful. Took a lot of damage after LG comes in too. Can easily clean things up if he can. Decides to go a few steps ahead to see if GNiK does go across to the Rockets, which he doesn't. But now his totem control has reset. He's only got 1 up. But yeah, you're right though. His totem control, it was good. He had a great routine of having 2 or 3 up near the Rockets. The suicide comes in. He's on -1. It's all downhill there at this moment in time for GNiK.
You hate to see it. The -1 on the scoreboard. psygib even forcing out the suicide right then and there. Yeah, what do you do when you're GNiK in this situation? The damage is just insanely in favor of psygib right now. The item control, GNiK has yet to pick up a single heavy. He's got a total of 0 heavy armors to his name in this entire matchup, and we're almost halfway done already, Lethal. That just shows how commanding psygib's control has been. Finally, GNiK picks up his first heavy, but is it too little too late?
There's definitely a possibility, because at least with the Galena, he has some advantages to try and catch up and pincer psygib down if he can. But he hasn't got any item control, barely. You know, it's not really going for him here. Now he's getting caught off guard with the LG. Rocket comes through, doesn't do too much damage, but the damage has already been done from the LG earlier. So psygib is just waiting GNiK to make the first move. He knows that he can't grab any health orbs or anything like that, but the heavy has appeared. GNiK is going to know exactly where he is once it's picked up, but instead, psygib decides not to rocket jump over to at least try and clean him up. He knows he's got the LG, and it's a big risk, even though no matter what kind of advantage you have, and the rockets come through, GNiK taken down once again, 6 to -1 with 4.5 minutes remaining.
Oh my god, psygib! He's getting such good reads on his opponent, reading exactly where GNiK spawns time and time again, and he is punishing it relentlessly too. And GNiK is playing such an aggressive player at Mega too. Mega is up and he's in no position to really take it, and he just zips for it and dies. Same thing happened this time around at Heavy, although he did manage to survive. It's so risky, and that rocket into LG combo, psygib stands his ground and is just punishing his opponent.
Tries to go for the spawn rail there, sadly does not hit it. But it doesn't matter at this point. He's pretty much laughing considering the scoreline and how much time he has left to try and defend it. GNiK let it get a little bit out of hand ever since he got the 3 totems up on top of the bridge and rockets, and doing the same routine, bouncing up from the heavy and then contesting the mega. It's just been all downhill from here. As psygib, we spoke about it before, his methodical approach. This is definitely one of his better maps for here. He's taken a real hit there, a little bit of chip damage, but what do you feel like GNiK could have done differently in terms of earlier on here, Flea? Because he definitely could have taken a few different routes, maybe take out the totems earlier, or maybe contest the heavy better.
The 2 main things I think he kind of messed up with is being too careless with his movement, just very often hooking himself over to the other side of the map or towards Railgun, and then just getting caught out by psygib, who has a perfect read and finishes him off easily. And the second thing is use the railgun more. He's finally using the weapon slightly more often, but at the beginning of the game, we were 6 minutes in and he had 2 railgun shots fired, and that's all. So on a map like Blood Covenant, where rail is such an important weapon because you have so many long line of sights, you really need to be using that more often. And I understand that's a bit contradictory because he tried to get rail, but it backfired so often because psygib killed him in that spot over and over again. But still, GNiK, I feel like he should have been a bit more careful, perhaps slowed things down and just waited until he had an opportunity to get himself rail rather than just going off it the moment he saw the weapon up.
Yeah, it could be too little too late here. GNiK got 14 HP, doesn't matter anymore as the rail comes through the psygib, and this is a psygib we know and love in terms of being on form, and throughout this stage he's been playing really well. And this moment in time, he's playing his A game, he's making a mockery at this stage, but GNiK managed to get another frag, but then again he's still got 9 more to try and collect and add to his tally. Way too little too late, and the fact that with every engagement you take, you're always going to take a lot of damage afterwards, so try and get that default stack and then take another one again and again. It's going to be very, very difficult. GNiK going to try and make that attempt anyway, back and forth to try and keep him on spawn. But we know what psygib's like. He's very, very good at trying to stop people from playing that catch-up game. Minute 25 remaining, 8 frags difference. It's looking very bleak here for GNiK.
Yeah, and psygib knows this too. He's so well aware that if he just manifests himself on a part of the map and holds his ground, he can do so much damage to any attempt GNiK can make to try and tie things back up, that he can just on the respawn steal a major item or even get the kill instantly. So he knows that if he just slow plays this and continues what he's doing, there is next to nothing that his opponent can do. And look at this, once again, psygib securing himself the heavy, messing up the rocket jump to rail quite often though. I think this is the third time already he's missed that one this map, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. GNiK, 8 frags in 40 seconds. I just don't see it happen at all. That's a good opportunity though. We've got to be careful with the totem. I also laughed that earlier, Harry. GNiK came around the corner and ran into 2 supercharged totems. That was a lot of totem damage out of nowhere, right here on top of the bridge. I didn't get to comment on it back then, but those are like the juicy little extra bits of damage that help so much in the long run.
Yeah, I don't think he expected him to be that, like, he expected to be more in an unorthodox position, but yeah, it just wasn't happening. GNiK couldn't get anything going. psygib was playing out of his mind. 5 seconds left remaining, 11-3 the scoreline. Close, but you know, GNiK could have had that first series win, but it just wasn't to me. There clearly was psygib's map. But you said earlier, you know, with his rail shots, at one point in time, he hit 7 out of 9. He just wasn't barely missing at any moment in time. Yeah. And psygib, though, at least he continues to work his way through the Americas and gets another series win underneath his belt. It's a shame for GNiK. Like, if he managed to take that second map win, it could have been a completely different story. But then again, you know, it gave psygib a little bit of a chance to stabilize and try and get away from him. But apart from that, that was a great series considering what we saw from that last map.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see it so often with a lot of these players, right? We saw it earlier with Spardy as well. They just get so close to finally getting that total series win, but then it all just falls apart. Time and time again. And just once more with GNiK this time around, right? First map, beautiful. Absolutely spectacular. Second map, a really close game. Could have gone either way. And then on the third one, just psygib ramps it up and manages to secure himself a comfortable win in the end. But unfortunately for GNiK, close doesn't win you anything. You need to get the wins to get the points. It doesn't matter if you lose with 0 frags or you lose with 18 frags to your opponent's 19. A loss is a loss. And you simply just need to do that little bit extra.
Well, he's got 1 map win from that series anyway, but it's just not going to cut it. He wanted that series. He's going to be kicking himself a little bit because I feel like he knew that he could have had that series underneath his belt, but it just wasn't to be, I'm afraid. But even with psygib, no, he's going to be happy with that series win. GNiK, we've seen that even in that last map, even though he was at a huge deficit, he was still trying to force out his style of play on psygib, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah, no, and we discussed it earlier already. You asked me what could have gone differently. I pointed out a few of the issues, right? psygib just sitting on the railgun like a hawk, preventing it from GNiK time and time again, and he just wasn't able to land or even get himself that weapon. I pointed it out. We were 6 minutes in, and GNiK had shot 2 railgun shots over the entire course of more than half the map. If you do that on a map like Blood Covenant, where that is such a vital weapon, rather, you are in bad trouble to begin with.
Big trouble indeed, but that's the second match all done and dusted, and we'll be back very shortly with the third match.